Kevin, what have you been up to, man? You been busy?
I've been staying busy, I'm going to talk to Tyler Muto tomorrow for a little one-on-one, and just been I've been learning Pat Stewart's course, doing his online course. I'm subscribed to like JJack's Patreon. I just been watching some stuff, so it's been a while because I did actual dog training stuff because I've been working on
Yeah.
networking with other business owners up in my area and trying to improve the business. And then just
Yeah.
so far right now I've been trying to jump into more like dog training stuff, trying to get back in touch and study.
Yeah. Cause you've been at this for a while, right? When did we first meet?
I think we first met, I think, was it was it Minneapolis or was it I think we've met before.
It was it was ICP conference Minneapolis. With who was speaking there? I mean, I think it was the first conference after COVID, right? Or maybe during COVID.
Right.
Like, cause I know the ICP had a conference, it canceled in 2020. I think it tried to do virtual in 21 and 22 was in Sawgrass. Were you there for that one or
I
no?
think I was. I think I was. So I think I might have met you there.
Sawgrass. It was Sawgrass. That's the one where Stephen Lizzie was speaking, founder of Lima and stuff like that. Cool. All right, let me get started with this. Guys, welcome back to the Dog Tribe podcast. Today we are talking to Kevin Lee. So Kevin, you've been out doing dog training for quite some time, or at least doing a lot of learning throughout the industry. I know we've met at different conferences. You went to the Silver and Gold School. Um, you've done a lot. I mean, I feel like I've kind of see you everywhere. You're very good at networking in terms of like all the times that I've seen. And obviously, being here in the podcast before we get talking about, small animal aggression, which is going to be today's topic. Wanted to get a bit about your background, man. Where'd you get started on training and what got you involved? Cause you're pretty involved. I mean, in terms of people that I know get out there and just get as much education as they can. I know this Jacqueline Dagenpat. I've seen her kind of, travel the country, learning and growing, just as like a lot of trainers do. But you've definitely put in your miles and travel. So what got you started in the industry?
Yeah, so I started like around when I was 11 years old. I was just this kid with a little Shih Tzu that didn't know what to do, and like I was like thinking career choices. Like I could have been a chef. I could have been like Steve Irwin, like a crocodile hunter.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then like all of a sudden you pop up a channel from National Geographic, and then Caesar Milan, Dog Whisperer. I think like most people, I got inspired to watch his shows, and after that it was like I want to work with dogs. I want to be a dog trainer. Um, and I just like from high school, like I did a lot of volunteering at rescues and shelters. I read books, and then I think really what started my dog career was like I also went to do the Train to Caesar's Way with back in 2013 in person with my mom and my dog. That was actually when I met my mentor Heather Beck, and we
okay,
go way far back. And shortly afterwards, I went to a school called Bergen University of Canine Studies, and
mm.
it's a place. It's up in yeah,
California,
up in
right?
Northern California in Sonoma County, and I studied there for 3 years, like from 2014 to 2017. I got my associate's degree in assistance dog education. I got my bachelor's degree in pet dogs and business. Um, and it was like a very like force free background a little bit, but like it gave me like a jump start, like to study and learn more. And even then, like I was working at PetCo for 3 years, and I gave my hands on like a bunch of other pet client dogs. And after when I was finished studying, I went, yeah, right after I graduated, I went to shadow Heather. Um, I went to study.
Okay. So you were a Petco
Yeah,
trainer?
I was a Petco trainer at the very beginning, and luckily I was very fortunate that my manager back then was very flexible, and he was just like, "Go whatever you do you." Like,
It's like we got to train these dogs,
yeah,
man.
because like we had some nasty dogs that was like, "Oh shoot." 190 for 6 classes with this dog trainer.
You had how much were they charging for
Oh my God. It
classes?
was like 80 per lesson. And if it was like for 6 classes, it was like 119.
Dude, that's I mean, that's actually that's not bad at all. I mean, it sounds like a good deal. 6 classes, 119. I mean, even back then, I was doing the math uh actually today because we're doing quarterly, you know, quarterly goals for the company. So, I'm trying to be a good entrepreneur and business owners and sit down with the team and say, okay, we're hitting quarterly goals. Where are we at? How are the programs? What are the dogs? What are the clients saying? And I was thinking like daycare in Chicago used to be like $35 a day back in like 2010 to 2015, 16. I mean, it was $35 a day for a long time. And then we've increased it to $50 a day, even a couple of years ago. But we were looking at the growth of cost, and it's like people used to be hired back in the day from like $7 to $10 an hour. And now you're like at between like 16 and $20 an hour. But the change for daycare hasn't been that much, right? Which I thought was really, really interesting for facilities and stuff like that. But now that you just triggered that since you were talking
Yeah.
about the cost of training. I remember the $1,200 for 2 weeks of boot
Oh
camp
my
back
God. Yeah.
where back in like 2011. I was looking at we started posting some social media content for the Dog Tribe Academy. I don't know if you saw the reel we posted today. It was like me as like a 21-year-old or a 20-year-old training dogs. I remember those 2 week board and train days where it was like 1,200 for 2 weeks. And you really think about it, you really can't train a dog in 2 weeks, or you really can't train a
Hmm.
dog using modern methods in
Yep.
2 weeks, right? You need a lot of time to really develop the dog. But back in the day, I mean, it was like, very like I don't say yank and crank, but like not force
Hmm.
free, let's say, in terms of like how you accomplish things. And the type of dogs we were working with were also kind of, very different then. So what are you doing now? So obviously you're doing a lot of education. I mean, it sounds like you've been really studying for a very long time, which is very admirable. A lot of people I feel like, go to one course and put up the sign, hey, I'm a dog trainer, and they get after it right away. So it's really impressive to meet guys like you that have been really, learning and studying for such a long
Yeah.
time.
No, I have a lot of fun just with different methods. And like after I finished shadowing Heather, that's when I went to my first IACP in like 2018, St. Louis or something. And it just opened my world to like, I thought I was just like this little minnow in this big pond of dog trainers where like I got to meet like Tyler Muto, like I got to meet like Jason Vasconi, I get to meet like a bunch of the big names over there. And like throughout my journey, like I have not missed a single IACP conference except that one during COVID. So I think this
Yeah.
might be like my seventh one this year or eighth or something.
Dude, this one's gonna be real fun.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be real fun. It's coming up pretty soon in like
It's coming up, I think like in two
I don't know,
months.
70
Yeah,
days. Yeah, in
it's
like 2 months.
insane.
Oh, I know. I know. I mean, things are looking really good. I mean, this is the first year, at least since I've been on
Hmm.
the board, that we've really got it together well ahead of time. And I'm gonna be running audio video this year as it was last year. So I'm sure I'll see you there with maybe stop by the podcast booth because we have Dog Pro Radio now, who Jason and Matt are taking on
Yeah.
mostly. I was on a couple of episodes, but I just feel like, I have so much going on right now that it's a disservice to take on a second
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
I mean, this one we have 3 or 4 episodes that we still have to edit to post out, and so I like to use this podcast as like, or I should say, I like to use podcasting as a cathartic experience or what I actually feel about dog training business and connecting with people who really like. And I feel like when you get on a podcast for an organization, you have to really talk as the role, not as who you are, right? And I really struggle with that. Being like the VP of the board, you really have to be like, well, I got to represent the not myself, but the organization. And I think that's kind of challenging for me. And the reason I started doing these things is because I don't know, it's like I said, it's like a therapy, right? And but so tell me, so what kind of training are you doing now? Right before we got on this call, you were doing some slat mill work. You've studied it a lot. So what are you focusing on these days in terms of training, hands-on? What kind of dogs are you training? That kind of
Yeah, so
thing.
I mean for 7 years, 8 years, I after I left PetCo, I just did my own business. So like I specialize in going to like private lessons and running group classes, because I like, between as much as I like working with puppies, I get called for all the behavioral cases, like the reactive dogs, the fearful dogs, and just like, or you're just overexcited high drive dogs. So like with me, I love learning from like J Jack. I love learning from like, I love GRC. So that's why like I have a slap mail for my dogs. And I even like offer it out to my clients who, that they need something a little bit more, or they want to borrow my slab mill. I'm just like, yeah, come down. Like just show me $50 and then I'll let you run your dogs on the slab mill. We can just hang while your dog's running the mill. And then like me and my best friend who's in Sacramento, she just started like a GRC club and I'm one of the members. We love everything about the GRC. So we're learning about the high drive sports, and especially like how I expanded my dog training from like, from dog whisperer to force free. And then like, I just added on like GRC, like the way J Jack like talks about dogs, it definitely resonated with me with like fulfillment and, using play to help bring out dogs and make them feel good. So then when they're around the triggers, like they're like, oh, it's like, it's really something, especially like me learning the concept of the punishment, where I've been like on Patreon, because punishment is such a loaded word that it's like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna use it, like you really have to understand like how to explain it without causing like like a whole politics.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to cover
Yeah.
punishment
Yeah.
poorly, altogether. So tell me a little bit about what GRC, high drive stuff. What exactly do you guys do in GRC Club?
So like based off of what I've been learning about GRC for the last few years, it's definitely like it's like a nice community. Like there's a bunch of clubs all over the United States that people can like bring their high drive dog, or like dog trainers, they can bring their high drive dog to do like sports like wall climb, where you have those, like you've seen videos where these dogs, these pitties and mountains just climb up the wall to grab the tug toy. You can do spring pole, where you have a toy hanging on the thing, and then the dog's tugging on it, and you're working on outs, or do like obedience to what, and then send the toy, kind of like bite work, kind of like where you do your work and then you send them for the bite. You do slap mill, and then the slap mills, like they keep track of like, I think they have a little marker in the slap mill that lets you know like how many, like I forgot what they called it, but they kept track on like how fast your dog runs and how much.
Oh yeah, like the miles per
Like the
per hour
miles
kind
per
of thing.
hour thing, because and even like weight pull, where like you put, like I saw one GRC trial in Utah when J Jack was doing a workshop, and man, the weight pull was so cool. Like everyone was just like trying to like putting on more weight, and their bullies are just like pull, and they're like, you done? You want to add more, or are you done? And then like one of my friends, Tara, was like, I want to beat that bitch. And then it was like kept going, and then she finally won, and we're like, oh my god, it was like the upset of the century. But it's like, I feel,
Dude, that's super cool.
I love it. And that's the thing, where it's like, these dogs, like when they do these sports, they are like full of heart. They're full of energy. They're super motivated. It's like
They commit to the sport as much as the handlers or the owners commit to the sport. They commit to the sport.
Yeah,
as well.
because especially where it's like, some people like will get like a working dog, or like a high drive dog, where it's like, agility, or like some sports aren't really like enough, where it's like, like with GRC, like it gives like an outlet for those kind of dogs, where it's like, it's pet, like, because it invites both like pet dog owners and like dog trainers, that like we can all like be in a club to like be part of this community, which is really nice. I'm trying to think what else I'm trying to think about what else I can describe. Yeah, like it's really fun.
No, it seems like it's a good, I don't say energy outlet. Like I see energy outlet as like go play fetch or something like that. I would say is probably a good sport that everyone can participate in, that doesn't necessarily make it that you have to be this like top trainer to teach a focus heel and stuff like that. not that it's not worth anymore. I mean, I think everything teaches its own, right? And when I think about what the owners is, and I think about GRC quite a bit because really we have tons of clients here in Chicago that I feel like would benefit from
Hmm.
GRC. Because it's a good entry level. I don't want to say entry level, like that sounds kind of harsh. It's a good outlet for them and to learn skills about their dogs, right? And I think that's ultimately the point of GRC. I feel bad for doing so much PSA over the years that it's like such a, I don't want to say hard sport to do, but it really is hard. I mean, it's like a super hard sport, especially to do it at the competitive level, the decoin, all that additional stuff. I kind of recently just stepped away from PSA
Hmm.
for a little bit. I'm going to retire Lobo, and not retire him because I don't that he can't do it. It's just more or less there's other things going on in my life because I'm getting older. So I got up, I was like 25, 26. I was like really like in it for
Yeah.
PSA and stuff like that. Now it's like, I'm like mid 30s. I gotta focus on the business, the school, the stuff's going on. And so I don't see myself competing with Lobo for the next 4 years to, get him to where I need him to be. So I'm going to give him a break and give myself a break. But GRC is probably a good focus for the company. Kind of like you were saying, people can learn the skills that are necessary. And honestly, that's the beauty of like those kind of sports, whether it's protection sports or like GRC, is that you get to use sports to teach skills that are beneficial for trainers and owners to be able to control their dogs or learn certain skills, high drive
Hmm.
skills, right? That I would say specifically dealing with reactivity. That's one of them. Dealing with high arousal control, and even understanding prey, because I think that a lot of tugs and spring pulls and things that we use to motivate high drive dogs really have to do with prey, and they trigger the dog's prey instincts, right? So like playing tug or playing fetch, all that kind of stuff really triggers the dog's prey drive. And in fact, I was evaluating a pit bull today for a really long time client. I mean, I think they were actually a volunteer here at the rescue program when we had it back in like 2012, 2013, maybe before that. And basically they just recently got a pit bull. They brought it out, and I could tell the dog's kind of like comfortable in the environment. He's a little concerned about people, um, and definitely has a little bit of drive. And so I don't feel comfortable, or I don't really feel like I understand like a pity, especially
Hmm.
like that, unless they're willing to really play hard tug
Hmm.
with me. Like once I could get them really obsessed with tug and then teach them to out and relax and do what we call secondary obedience, right? Like do control around the
Hmm.
tug and then receive the tug as a reinforcement. It's really when the dog feels comfortable like that to cooperate with me and we can get into flow of high drive obedience, then that's when I can trust the dog a little more because that's when they're going to show me who they
Yeah.
really are, right? And that goes for every dog. That goes for a Malinois. That goes for a German Shepherd, a Pit Bull, like cattle dog, anything that is a little concerned about around people. When they play with me and they're comfortable and they're in that state of drive or state of mind, then I'm like, okay, cool. We're good. I feel like we're really
Hmm.
connecting here. But you had reached out about some small animal aggression, right? What have you been training? What are you dealing with these
Yeah,
days?
like I mean, I'm like as you know, I'm a forever student, but I'm never one of those big-headed ego guys that was like, oh, I know it all. Like I could fix everything. Like even for me, like sometimes I have a Malinois, I have a little pit bull dachshund abomination mix that have insane prey drive. Then I'm like, when a client reaches out for me for the cat, I'm like, all right, let me go check it out. And, if it's like a puppy that wants to chase it for fun and all that, I'm like, okay, cool. I got this. Like, I can suggest some stuff. But then dog with a little bit of prey drive and then bringing into a home with two cats, established cats, I was like, okay, I'm not sure. But then I saw your TikTok, like that one story you did with that German Shepherd with that when you put the cat in
Mhm.
the crate. And then I was listening to that. Wait, and I listened to that before I worked with that client. Like I even scheduled her, and I was like, it's like this is gold right here. I was like, I need to talk to him about this.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny that dog, the dog's name was Trooper. They changed his name. He got adopted. And so we had trained the dog, I think November to
Hmm.
December. And the owner that had brought him in from Michigan, she struggled to handle the dog because not necessarily the prey. It just really had a hard time dealing with people in one of the like, I don't want to say downtown areas, but more of the crowded areas here in Chicago by the lakefront. And so anytime we would go outside, the dog would be good, but after like 25 dogs, it would be like, bro, like I'm gonna bite these dogs, or I can't hold it anymore, or I'm just so over
Yeah.
aroused that I can't handle it anymore. Because here in Chicago, I mean, I'm sure you've been there, or anybody in the big cities, like when you get a dog from the country and it comes in and it settles well, it's one thing you're living here in Horner Park where there's like dog spaces and, it's busy, but there's areas of Chicago that are like busy, where you're like, um, you're in a street between a fenced front yard and a fenced, I don't know, public area. You're just going down kind of like a hallway almost, or an outdoor version of a hallway. And there's just like from here to a quarter mile, there's no left or right turn, just people. And then there's just dogs nonstop coming at you. And I would definitely see how a young dog would struggle with
Mhm.
that, right? In terms of like, um, being able to adjust, and then the owner's like, man, like I'm not at the age or desire to be able to want to take this dog on. She's saying, we already paid for training. Can you guys help us rehome him? And so I said, okay, cool. I took the dog on because he's a young dog. Typically, my profile is like young, high drive dog with no bite history. It's an easy dog for us to train. We'll take him, develop him, and then announce him on social media or place him, and people are really happy with the result. So when we got the dog in, one of our trainers here, one of our lead trainers, said, hey, you know what? I want to foster him. So he immediately went to a foster, and she has a cat at home, right? And that's typically where it's tricky, because she was telling me that Trooper had a lot of interest in the cat. And I was thinking, well, there's a lot of ways to go wrong, right? Because most of the time it's about the creativity of how do you test intentions without risking the safety of the cat, small animal, child, person. It all comes down to that. It's like, cool, I need to test this out to see what the dog's true intentions, because that's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, when you're testing for dog socialization, is one of those things. This is how we do dog socialization assessments too, is you can do a lot of obedience training. You can do a lot of different things, but at some point you have to go in and confront whatever the dog actually is feeling. You have to find out, right? So most of the time it has to do with the structure of the activity that is going to allow you to have the safety measures in place in order to really find out. I think for any sort of cat assessment, typically people like to put muzzles on dogs, and then they let the cat will roam around, and then they, follow the dog. And one of the things that happens there is that the dog builds frustration on the muzzle, or now you have the variable of how does a dog actually feel about the muzzle? Because if the muzzle was taught in any other way other than like a positive experience, and the dog's building frustration with the
Mhm.
muzzle on, then that frustration is then changes the mindset of the dog, which then changes the activity about what we're trying to introduce, right? I'm always very hesitant whenever we're socializing dogs on muzzles, and we're socializing or we're exposing dogs or people on muzzles, because for me, the muzzle uh, kind of the way it was taught starts to contaminate the actual
Mhm.
process, right? So I said, okay, so let's take the muzzle and put it on the cat instead. That's great, right? So you put the cat in the crate, and pretty standard process. You let the dog go up and find out exactly the way it is, right? And this is how I handle dog socialization as well, is that every dog's always going to approach, whether it's a cat or a dog, it's going to approach another dog and um, sniff, and then it's going to make a couple of decisions, right? It's either going to want to play, it's either going to be kind of hesitant and back away and it's unsure, or it's going to then react and aggress. And even within aggression, there's a couple of different stages. And in a dog that is dangerous to me, typically gets into aggression and stays in aggression. And for example, in the video, Trooper went up to the cat and you could tell that his tail was wagging. And, even there was some vocalization there. He had loose body language, or, then get a little concerned. And in my mind, like from what I've seen, dogs that have true killer instincts, they just want to go for the snatch, right? They want to go for it. They'll bite the crate. They'll bite the fence. They'll just tell you right off the bat, like, I've been waiting to get this close and I'm going to bite the cat. I want to eat it. And in that instance, Trooper didn't get to that point. But in those instances, I typically try to do three things instead of three steps further once the dog gets into aggression. One of them is I take a step back and I have the leash and the collar, and all I say, I just yell loud and clear, hey, in this case, it would be trooper,
Mhm.
trooper. Or like I would just expect for him to see if he can hear my voice and disengage from the animal, right? If that doesn't happen right away, then I go to the next thing, and then uh, try to use leash collar pressure to try to force engagement towards me and try to get him to disengage. Hey, come towards me. If that doesn't happen, then I go to try to correct and stop behavior, like literally suppress behavior, right? And this is already an extreme case. And there are dogs that are just like, cool, okay, don't aggress towards the cat or don't aggress towards the dog. Got it. And then I would consider a dog that needs to go through a serious training plan to overcome those things. Dogs that don't disengage or dogs that are like just stay there locked in and they'll take external pressure, including training equipment, body pressure from people, all that kind of stuff to stay engaged in the fight. That's a dog that's just got a different level of instincts, right? And those dogs are just far and few in between.
Mhm.
But in Trooper's case, I mean, you kind of just saw the dog come in, curious, and almost like play bow. I
Mhm.
can tell play bow when it's going to happen. It's like, oh, I can see that this dog is kind of like wanting to play with the cat or finds interest in another animal. In that case, you're gonna typically it's gonna go pretty well. It's not gonna mean it's not gonna chase it around the house or it's not gonna do other things like that. What it does mean is that it's not going to kill it right
Mhm.
away, right? And so then you can get on to other safety measures in place. Um, and so that's typically my specific process. I do at that point always have a phase where I do the muzzle. So like once I test the cat, I then take the cage and put it around the dog's face, which is the muzzle. That's the way I like to describe it. And then we allow the dog to be on the bout with the cat and interact with it. Once the dog truly relaxes and the cat feels comfortable going around around the dog, then I can start fading the muzzle under structured obedience, and then take it from there. In those situations, typically you can expect a timeline of a couple of months. I'm not one to try to test those things or give people advice to remove a muzzle or let that happen. I've just seen horrible things
Mhm.
happen. I mean, I've had mostly, and I hate to always call them the pit bulls because we've trained a lot of pit bulls. We primarily did pit bull training back in the day. Even now, we get a lot of pitties. And I've had situations where we train the dog, and I say, "Hey, I'm going to go to your home. I'm going to go to your house the next day. Take this dog after our training session today and put it in the crate. Put it in the crate. Leave it in there. Don't worry about the cat. Put the cat in a different room. Forget about the cat. I'm going to pay you a visit tomorrow, and I want to be able to handle these things, right? Because there are certain things I just don't want people to do. It takes a lot of trainer skill, a lot of foresight, a lot of muscle memory, that kind of stuff to handle things in the moment, so that you can have a successful session. And I've had situations where we go home, and 2 hours later they said, "Hey, Fabian, I'm so sorry." They're crying their eyes out. My dog killed the cat because we tried to introduce them. And I'm just thinking, like, God damn it,
Yep.
what part of following these instructions don't you understand? And now I mean, that's where
Yep.
burnout comes from trainers and people. It's just like you see these horrendous things that happen just because people
Yep.
don't listen. And now I'm very specific and I say, look at me in the eye. Like, look at me. Do not do this, because if this happens, this is going to be a memory you're never going to be able to forget. Right. And like we're trying to use our experience here to help you. So I'm pretty direct with people that is specifically small animals or of what happened, or giving recommendations of people and children, because it's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. I mean, whether it's a cat or another dog or small children, we don't really get to decide what a dog considers
Mhm.
prey. We just know that they function off of prey
Mhm.
instincts, right? Um, Another instance where there's another dog, actually, one of the dogs that I posted on my socials today, on one of those old school videos. It was a black pitty. They trained up. I mean, I think he killed the dog in the elevator, and he killed the dog in the elevator. And we said, okay, cool, can't do that, right? I wear a muzzle. Went through training. 8 years went by, and then they had a baby, right? And they were able to manage the baby and the dog for quite some time, up until where the baby started walking. And there was something about the dog that he just didn't like it, right? And I gave the advice to euthanize the dog after an incident where they called me and they said, "Hey, the dog saw my baby or my um, toddler through the glass door from the patio. He was outside and our kid was inside, and he just prey locked and wanted to smash through the glass to come at my kid." And I was just like, "Yeah, we're not going to train
Mhm.
that. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to train that. And I think you
Ye-
should euthanize it because, your dog killed a dog in the elevator years ago. And now you're asking me about this situation. And I was just like, you regret it. I think I've always seen it. Like, you will regret it. There's going to be a time where you are not fast enough. There's going to be a time where you can't predict what's going to happen. And those are the situations that ultimately cause the most traumatic things in dog training,
Yeah.
right? Is by not making the decision you need to make. Um,
Yeah, no,
but
I
yeah,
mean, no, I totally agree with you because it's like you and I like spend, from 8 to 10 years just practicing our craft and like the timing and just like, you know, having our toolbox of things, right? And then, but then it's like the problem is, we got to teach the clients who have these dogs like all these things, and all it takes is one mess up, or it takes like or that one instance where you don't listen to me. Oh, look what happened. You lost your cat because you let them meet too soon. And like I just had an incident where I just had a client who had a golden retriever that he was biting the owner like from 3 months old, and
resource guarding.
not even research guarding too, but like
I was gonna say
yeah,
any
research.
resource guarding, dude. Golden's and
It's
resource guarding.
insane. And then he would just bite them for touching his paw and his ears and everything. And like we were working with him and I was like giving them some different options and things. Even like I had him talk I try to have her talk to like a behavioralist that I know in the area just to get their thoughts, but they never did it. But like it got to the point where it's like, hey Kevin, he went after me for no reason. I'm gonna rehome him. And I said on text, I was like,
Don't.
no, do not do that. Like, he's going to do this with somebody else and he's going to get put down eventually. And then did not even regard my text. And it's like, oh, we found him a home. And then, like, this weekend, like, someone called me, hey, Kevin, this is Susan, blah, blah, blah. I work with this golden retriever that just got rehomed. And I'm like, is his name Spencer? And he's like, yes. And I was like, and I talked to her on the phone. She was crying because she had to put him down after having him for like a week. And then, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I hate moments like that.
It. Yeah. And one of the things that I would tell people is that, um, like, people get sued over
Mm,
this stuff. Like, and most of the time, the people that get bit out on the street, sometimes everyone has dogs, right? We live in a very dog centric society, at least here in Chicago. So everyone's like, dogs bite, dogs bite. Sometimes situations get so um rough, or sometimes situations get so bad with the outcomes that people, when they're in the hospital bed getting stitches, or they're, getting pins on their arms or their feet or some extremity because of a dog injury, they start feeling, hey, you know what? Like, this is a little
mhm,
unfair. They start thinking, hey, I'm not very happy that I got bit. And that's where lawsuits happen, right? If typically, if it's like a first time situation, and unfortunately, that's never the case. Whenever someone ends up in the hospital, it's never because it's a dog's first bite. Most of the time, it's been multiple situations. I'm sure you're familiar with Ian Dunbar's
mhm,
bite scale.
mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that. I remember when that first ran into that, it was like 2018 or something like that. And by that time, I had seen enough people get bit because, I started in the industry. I think 2007 is when I started in the industry. And so, working at facilities and then being a trainer and then working rescue, you saw a lot of things, but then you saw things that kind of just didn't make sense, right? Or you started to ask questions. For example, one of them is, hey, I've been bit by dogs, like as an individual myself. I've been bit by dogs, but it never looks like that,
Mhm.
right? It never looks like terrible. It's always been like, hey, the dog freaked out and like he bit me and it kind of pinched my nerve and it really hurt, or he broke my skin, or maybe there's some slight superficial skin tears, but it's never like got maimed,
Mhm.
right? and then never got maimed or never got severely hurt. And then eventually, as I spent a lot of time in rescue, you run into these situations where rescue people don't want to euthanize dogs. They just don't want to euthanize dogs. Or they are willing to hide them from the public. They are willing to move them into a different county. They are willing to rename them.
Yep.
They're willing to do anything sometimes, not every time, but sometimes to keep that dog alive. And that's where you get these like ticking time bombs that someone just adopts and it becomes a problem, right? And kind of what I was saying with the bite scale is I saw dogs that eventually came into the rescue system, and because of behavioral problems, they never really got adopted, but they just got worse, right? So one of them, I mean, oh my God, like the dog, I won't say his name because he was kind of like a hot topic around here, but the this dog, we went to get him. He was one of the first dogs we got to the rescue program, right? And so we went down to animal care and control. We pulled the dog. He came in here for training, and this was like 2009. And he was like a 9-month-old Shepherd Rottweiler mix,
Oh wow.
right? And I don't know why. And he looked like that. Or it was a Bernese Mountain Dog
Hmm.
Rottweiler mix. And he came in, and I was training him. And I remember one day I put the food bowl down, and like he jumped on me and knocked the food bowl everywhere on the floor, right? And then I went to grab him by the collar to pull him away. Yeah, I went to grab his collar to pull him away so I can like, no, I'm gonna train you. I'm not gonna let you eat this stuff all over the floor. And as I pulled him away, he turned around and just bit me hard, but didn't puncture me. It's like one of those bites where like they're learning to bite hard enough where you're like, ow, like that kind of hurt my wrist and like it pinched my nerves, but there's no lacerations. I'm surprised I don't have any punctures, right? I saw that happen. I was like, cool. A couple months later, the dog's still having problems because unfortunately at the time, pressure was the only thing I knew. And pressure was the only positive reinforcement here didn't work. I mean, that was already thrown out the window for this
Hmm.
dog because it was tried and it didn't work. And then we brought in the way opposite, right? One of my mentors was really good at pressure. So though I mentored over there and it was just like pressure, 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 a lot of conflict, a lot of, that kind of dominant type training. And so then the dog got worse and started fighting us and became this whole thing. And then he started biting more people over similar situations around food, right? I have some video that I'll probably add to the podcast in
Hmm.
terms of like how that dog was after like 10 years of problems. Cause the dog lived to be like 12, maybe 13. And he never left the facility. Like he had his own compound. It was like a sanctuary set up at the facility next door. This dog eventually got worse and he just progressively bit more and more. And there was a time, by the time we really are like, okay, we got to really have one handler for him. He needs to be kind of adopted by someone that's going to live here. And this is going to be his living situation because nobody wants to euthanize him. And guarantee that you will have lacerations and punctures if you went anywhere near this dog for food or anything of the sort, right? And because of that, other similar cases, I got to learn about the bite scale. So when I ran into the bite scale, I was like, oh, okay, I can see why all of these dogs um, got worse over time because it became more confident, right? It became an opportunity or it became an option in the way they think about aggression. It was something like if you, I don't know, I'm pretty bad at examples, but you can tell me if this
Hmm.
makes sense. But if you learn that punching and hitting people is a release for your stress, now it's an option and you may default to it. And I think that's the biggest problem with like children is when they learn to be violent when they're kids. Um, and it's out of like emotion, that could be a go-to behavior in the future, right? It's the same thing with
Hmm.
dogs. If they learn to be violent and push people around or dogs around, with that behavior, it becomes an option and it will develop because it's just like any other behavior. Dogs get really good at heel because it's a behavior. Dogs get really good at being aggressive because of the practice of
Hmm.
aggression. And so that was some of my earliest experiences with those kind of dogs. But kind of like picking up on the thing that you said, and the reason I brought that up is that um, dogs in rescue systems, they get shuffled around because they want to keep them alive. And then at some point, there is a
Hmm.
lawsuit. And I witnessed this one time where there was a lawsuit about a dog that bit someone. And when they did the research on this dog, they found out this dog had all sorts of history. I mean, he had bitten somewhere else. He had, kept people on top of their dining room table. That's because the dog kept trying to get on the dining room table and attack them. And it was a whole thing. And so this injury was so bad that the person that got bit had reconstructive surgery on their feet. It was a really bad outcome, right? And yeah, they got sued. And when they got sued, everything came
Yeah.
out, right? I mean, I was deposed, and I remember the dog stayed here for a while, and they the staff was like putting little sweatshirts on him, and it was a cute little pit bull. He was all
Oh
scarred
my
up. Like
gosh.
I remember looking at him, and I'm like, man, this dog looks like a
Yeah.
killer. Like he looks like a killer. Short, stocky, ripped. He's got scars on his face, and then they're putting little
It-
like sweaters on
yeah,
him,
they're
and
yeah, they're just
you
trying to
know,
dress him up, like make like put this convict into Tinder, be like, look at me, I'm single, like please
yeah, yeah,
take
dude,
take
for
me
real,
home. Look how cuddly I look. And then it's just like the scars, you're like,
right.
no, bro.
I remember when I was being deposed, when the attorney that was representing me was kind of upset with me because I'm there to tell the truth. I'm not here for the company. I'm not here for the person that got bit. I'm not here for in defense of the owner or whatever. I'm here to be like, I will be honest about what you asked me to, because this is the court of law, right? I'm not trying to skew or be one way or the other. And they asked me, would you have treated this dog differently had you known the history of the dog before he came to the facility? And I was like, absolutely. And I use these exact examples. I mean, you have the people that are coming in that love the rescue work, that are interacting with these animals, and they're putting their clothes on them, and they're taking them out for walks, and they're snuggling on them. And then come to find out that this dog like fucked a bunch of
Oh
people
yeah.
up, right? And it's like, and that's what people don't think about, man. And it's a real serious problem because um, there are dogs that come in for evaluations, like you were talking about cats or children and stuff like that. And you look at them and you see how people are really concerned about this. Like today, the black pit bull that comes in, and it's like it's been in the shelter for 2 years, and I look at him and I handle him, and I'm like, no, this dog's good. He's gonna be a good dog once you train him. And the worst thing you could do for this dog is treat him like a
Hmm.
victim. Don't treat him like a victim, because this dog, the way I see it, is he knows you're treating him like that, and he is just doing whatever the hell he wants all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
Um,
I definitely had my fair share of like rescues who had dogs like that, I mean, I had one foster that I had for a year that was like he didn't go after people out of like real aggression, but it was like he was so aroused that he would grab your hoodie, like the sleeve, and just pin you down, just tug just for shits and giggles. And I'm like, I could handle him, but if I handed him to the kennel again, or if I handed him to my friend, he would just be at it all over again. And I was like, man, I'm like, I love you, dog, but I'm like, I can't keep you forever because I never intended on a project. But it's like that one dog, if we were to, you know, put like put away peacefully, like, and we can take in like 10 easier dogs, and even like I've just had like even I had a rescue who, we had like this really fear aggressive border collie mix that was just like they were not doing anything at all for him. He was just in his kennel, just spinning, getting skinny, like stressed, and like they would try to bring him out, be like, look at this handsome border collie, and then they're like trying to say hi. He's like lunging and like been like five people that, which, I was like, you know what? You guys are terrible at this. I'm taking him to Dogs Play for life. And I drove all the way to from California, all the way to Florida. Like I drove across state
mm,
because I knew that, because I
dude,
thought
that's
this
crazy.
dog, I was like, there's no way this dog is going to be okay in a plane. And I was like,
Wait, where are you
I'm
located? Where are you located?
Northern California, like literally I'm 5 minutes from
Okay.
where the Michael
Okay.
Ellis School is, like in Santa Rosa. So,
Cool.
um, but yeah, no, I drove that dog. Like I fundraised all that money just to get him from there. I talked to Amy like at conferences. I was like talking about this dog. Like he had to get put down like eventually because it was like he just couldn't trust strangers. But it's definitely
Yeah.
just like, rescues and shelters really try hard, but it's
Yeah.
like project dogs like really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it is sad, man, because most of the challenge is, as a person that has experience, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is getting people to accept your experience so that they don't have to go through the things that you have to go through, right? And unfortunately, sometimes that's just not the case. Where, I've worked with rescue organizations, a very popular one, Pitbull only one here in Chicago. And we had a partnership for a while. It didn't last because they don't like to do the proper thing. And I have a problem whenever organizations don't behave the way organizations should.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say, I mean, like the ICP is for example. Like I have a big problem whenever it's like you're a nonprofit pit bull rescue, but some of the people that are on your team don't advocate for the
Yeah.
breed, aren't really investing in the training for the breed, um, and refuse to participate in the training of the dogs that they're asking us to house and train and develop for them. So we ultimately just didn't work out the relationship. But I remember this one time, and this episode's gonna be like reminiscing on terrible stories about pit bulls and dog
Hmm.
rescue. Um, um, there was a one of their senior people came in and they had just taken a dog, and she's like, "Hey, this dog's like tried to attack me a couple times." Um, and I was like, and I hate to say it, it was a white faced pit bull. I have this thing about white albino pit bulls that it's just like a thing. I mean, I've seen them all kind of have problems. So when people are like, "Hey, there's this white pit bull. Do you want to help him and foster him?" I'm like, I don't know, man. I've seen too many
Oh
of
my.
them not do well to the dude. I hate to put it that way, but it's true to me. And she brought the dog in, and it's like the dog's tried to attack me a couple times, and I was like, "Cool, let's take it out back and exercise a little bit. I just want to test this prey drive because most of the time when pit bulls attack, it's just like prey
Hmm.
gone wild or misunderstanding of what prey is, right?" And I remember she was wearing Floyd pants, like little flowy, wavy in the wind, and I remember she's like, "I don't know what it is." I'm like, "It's your pants." Like I just see that the way these pants, if you wear a lot of this kind of stuff, like I could tell like there's something about them. Like, what is it? It's weird. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a decoy and I train decoy and they decoyed a lot of dogs and trained a lot of dogs. And there's something about dogs that they like quick
Hmm.
fluctuating movement, right? Quick fluctuating movement. Dogs with prey, they just love it. And I don't know if visually it's ingrained, whatever. I don't know the whole biology of why that's the case, but that's what triggers prey, right? Quick fluid movements or jerky movements. Um, and so I've seen that dog, and I said, she's already been bit a couple times. And I said, dogs always bite greater than or equal to the last bite. Okay. I've always seen it. They've always bite the same or one step up. And, um, and I remember saying, get rid of this dog, euthanize this dog. It's already bit you once. It's only going to get worse. Like this dog weighs about half your weight. If it's a dog that actually latches onto you and, or tries to bite you, it's going to be a real problem for you. Nonetheless, literally like 3 months later, I hear through the grapevine and reaches out. Yes, the dog ended up attacking her. Yes, she was on the kitchen floor fighting this dog until her older son stepped in and got the dog. I mean, if anything, that's the stuff. I mean, still frustrating
Yep.
and kind of sad and a little like upsetting to me. It's just like that's the hard part. It's like sharing the experience and getting people to listen to
Yeah.
you.
No, it's
Um,
no, it's definitely it's so frustrating when you have when you deal with that. It's like, like you already know that it's not gonna work out. Like because especially where like you and I have so much experience with dogs, and it's like, like if we kept these project dogs, it's like they might look just fine, and we might know how to get by.
yeah,
But that's because we know what we're doing. Versus like clients is like,
yeah,
we tell like you could be right there in their face telling them, okay, you need to not do this, and you need to make sure of this. But it's just like you have clients who are just so like who don't know what they're doing, or they don't, or they the lifestyle that we suggest for them and things like that. It's like a phase for them. It's like maybe 3 weeks or like a few months, and then they go right back to where they wanna. They go back to what they would do
yeah.
to what they did at the beginning. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you can always tell, like when you meet dogs or rescue dogs or even puppies, you can always tell when you do
Hmm.
volume, right? Um, Cameron Ford was here a couple of weeks ago, last month. Well, we're almost in May, so maybe 2 months ago. It was mid March. He was here, and he was talking about canine cognition and the way dogs
Hmm.
learn, and all that kind of stuff, which is super interesting, really cool things that we're implementing here. And I think we're going to have a puppy cognition here at the
Oh,
puppy
cool.
program later in November. You should come out for that if you get a chance to. I know that, you're welcome to come out and hang out here.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
I'd love to. I really want to check out your facility, and then like I love the cognition test because like he's right here too. Like he moved to Santa Rosa like last
right. He was saying that it's like Silicon Valley for dog trainers
yeah. So
there.
it's like literally everybody's moving here, but I got to do one of his Cognition workshops. It was really fun. So I would love to watch. I would love to watch you guys do the puppy cognition test with them. So
There was the reason I brought that up is because he can tell when you see volumes of dogs, you just see certain behaviors, certain particular things. And I know a lot of people in the industry, depending on their background and experience, they may say, well, you can never really tell with a puppy. I mean, I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of puppies, especially with the Pup Start program here, Malinois dogs that we've raised and trained and, moved on to the next chapter of their life. And you can really tell, you can really tell what dog's going to have what problem. Puppies that, we're raising 2 Labradors right now. We just picked them up.
oh, cool.
And this is a good example of that. So 2 Labradors, one's for a client. Actually, we're raising 3 Labs. 2 are for clients. 1 is for our scent detection program here that we're going to be raising and placing the dog in quite a bit of time. And yesterday, we were at my house, and we have 2 of them. And another trainee's got the 3rd one, Juliana. And we noticed that the dogs were really struggling to settle more than the average dog, because we've raised Malinois puppies one at a time, and they come in and they sit in the crate and they learn to be quiet and the whole thing. But these puppies were really barking, like bark, 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 bark. But they were barking almost off steps and sound, like almost like in the jars of experience. It wasn't one barking, one sleeping. It was bark, 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 one settled. And so when one settled, the other one barked and then got this one to bark again. We realized that after like 48 hours, I'm like, whoa, we need to split these guys up ASAP. And the reason being is because they're actually making their training bad. We know that now one of them is actually down here on the first floor this is the student housing area of the facility. So on the first floor, there's one of the little puppies, and he's been quiet all day. The other one's been in a different office. He's been quiet all day. One of the things that we've noticed right off the bat is the little red puppy, the red lab, or the darker colored one. You can tell that he's just more attached to people. And that's the reason he barks and gets the other one going. The other one's a little calmer, more relaxed. And it's usually to separate them. You realize that they have very different personalities. And so right off the bat, I'm thinking, well, we really need to manage how quickly you bond to people, because I don't want you to have anxiety as you get older. But also, when you're crate training and they're struggling this much, it doesn't matter how much counter conditioning or how much food games we play with the crates or whatever. There's a level of back chaining that happens at the early stages of crating. So if they've never been crated and they are crated, and within the first 24, 48 hours, they're not immediately settled and getting used to things, they then start building a negative association with the crate, right? So if a puppy's first experience of the crate is not bark, bark, relax, oh, look, food. Oh, look, people are letting me out because I'm calm. If it's not that, then they think it's the opposite, which is bark, 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 bark. And so there's a lot of these little things, predictors, that when you spend a lot of time with dogs, you can just see. And you see the Malinois puppy that's going to be a little sketch. You see the Labrador that's going to be a little too over the top. You see the pit bull that's doing weird things with prey mentally. And you see the Malinois that, like my dog Agave is like this. We've raised, I don't know, I can't even remember how many Mallies and Betchies in the last couple of years, but because sometimes we've had like 4 or 5 at a time.
Yeah.
We just, 4 or 5 at a time, that in the search for that ideal puppy, or raising them for veterans or raising them for other people. And there are a lot of dogs that they're all fine with my cat. They're all fine with the cat. They're all like, I get my cat, they expose them. The cat runs around. And when Lobo first came in and saw the cat, he was like, oh, look, it's a playmate. Let's play. Right. And you could tell, like, oh, okay, he's not going to have enough prey drive. Like in my mindset, I'm like, the right, the right dog for me has the cat in question, whether it's on the table or not. Right. Like, that's just the reality. I've seen it over and over again. I see little puppies that come out and like, that's a cat, I'm going to kill it. Agave is like that. Agave, like, prey locks on the cat. And we've had her since she was 8 weeks old. I got her from Tommy. She's a old Belgian lines, really simple thought process of a dog. And you can tell, like, oh, okay, you're going to be that dog that, left to your own devices, you will kill the cat, right? Which is normal. And we saw that at 8 weeks. We saw it as like, I'm looking at the cats and I'm doing that. And now as she's older, she's okay being around them, but she's like, I'm just going to be here. but I'll kill the cat if you
Yeah.
let me, right? So you can just tell those traits, and you could tell the same traits with rescue dogs and pitties um, and anytime you're doing new, okay, so this is a good one. Anytime you're doing new assessments with dogs and prey items, if you let the scenario, if you put safeguards in place, whether the dog behind the fence or a cat in the crate or a dog, whatever the situation is, the dog in the back tie, so that, mm, you know, I'd like to back tie some
Mhm.
dogs that have aggression or redirecting issues with their owners, so that the owner could be further away, still have the leash in hand, but can't get bit if they stay at X amount of distance from the dog,
Right.
right? And so, um, if you just run through the process without any training, the dog will tell you what it feels and what it thinks. You just have to listen to it. And a lot of people just ignore those things, or they sell themselves on other things, right? Like the German Shepherd, my first German Shepherd that I got for PSA. I showed up at his farm. I got out of my truck. I looked at it and I was like, look at this cute German Shepherd puppy. He stopped, he woofed at me and ran away. And then I went and said, hey, I'm going to take this dog and I'm going to build him. And, I spent 3 years on the dog. Um, and ultimately it was more of the same, right? He ended up going to a retired cop. He was happy with them. He got to live on a farm and go look for his own antlers every season. So there's stuff like that. But I hope that information is useful to you
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
like,
I know. I think it definitely is, like, especially where, like, after, like, looking at the video, like I said, I went to my client and she has two older cats. One's upstairs, one is downstairs, and she brings in like the 6-month-old German Shepherd mix, and it looks a little taller than the one you were working with, or a little
okay,
shorter. But like, first thing was like, okay, can we put one of the cats in the crate? And then like I let the dog go up, and then the cat's like hissing and like making the little yodel sounds, and the cat,
dude.
yeah, it's like the
Yeah, dude.
Hawaii or something like that. And then next thing you know,
Dude, that's the worst
yeah, and
noise.
then it's like it smacks the crate, and I'm like thinking, okay, let's see what this dog does. And then the dog went like the dog put his nose towards it, sniffing, and then the cat's like yodeling, and then hiss and smack. And then I didn't let the dog do it all the way because I wasn't sure, but the dog was like this, and then thumped the crate, or like putting his head over the crate, and I was like, oh no 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 no, we not
Yeah,
doing that.
but do you see what I'm saying? That's all
Yeah,
you need. That's all you need for them to be like, oh, push comes to shove, this dog's gonna
yeah.
fight the cat.
So it's like, and we had to go. I had to do a little bit where I had to be like, just I had to correct the dog a little bit. But then, like, whenever the cat made the sound, the dog was like, "Okay, I'm gonna create space." I was like, "Good,
Yeah, so it's
yeah."
learned.
So I was like,
Yeah.
"Good dog." So I was like thinking, okay, like moving forward, because obviously the owner wants to have it where this dog is running, walking around with these cats, and then like they're older cats, and so it's like, the minute they start running, that's obviously when the dog is trying to chase them.
Yeah.
So like obviously I was like talking about, doing some crate stuff having the cat in the crate while you work on some obedience, because she takes the dog to like obedience classes, and she's done like formal obedience school and things like that, and actually is practicing with him, which is great. But obviously she wants to learn, okay, like what else can we do to solidify this and improve the relationship between cat and dog. um and I was
Right.
like, and like I don't know, like what else would you suggest? Like obviously, like like we have them on the leash, and then like also I was telling, like, she has a pen that she puts the dog in, so then the cats can walk around and can check the dog out. Um, and I don't know, like for you, like would you recommend like using like an e-collar to help in that situation?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. For sure. I mean, I think a lot of my process involves controlled exposure over
Yeah.
time and then measuring rate of change and improvement
Hmm.
over time, right? Because I mean, I've noticed it even with like really strong Dutch dogs. Is that everyone gets tired. Even like the high drive dog gets tired of like chasing the ball
Hmm.
too much, or they get a little tired if you really wear them out. And so, controlled exposure is through consistent repetition of the same scenarios. It's supposed to give you an indication of whether the dog's making improvement
Hmm.
or not, right? And so, say for example, we put the cat in the crate, cool. I literally let the dog go over there. And if the dog's like, hey, I want to um, try to nip at the crate or something like that, I would meet that criteria with an aversive, right? And then to me, it's one thing, or it's a two-part
Right.
process. One, if the dog's never dealt with a e-collar aversive or a prong collar aversive, or me marking no and then following up with an aversive stint. And when I mean aversive, I mean like a harsher
Hmm.
correction that is strategic strategic and
Hmm.
purposeful, right? And will make an impact. So it doesn't always have to be hard. It just has to be impactful,
Right.
right? Because sometimes it's the combination of everything. The no, and that it's you, and the correction, there's no you, and then the e-collar that creates that impact. But I make sure that my dog understands pressure and has gone through a whole training experience and has done the entire thing. And then I will go back to the same situation and say, cool, he goes to the cap, tries to nip at the crate or aggress to this crate. No,
Hmm.
correction. What does the dog do right after that? Because that's a really important part. Does the dog stop and be like, okay, got it? And then can we work in counter conditioning around the crate and exposure as the next step? Or is the dog going to be like, no, now I'm going to try harder? And then you're kind of just climbing with the dog over and over and over again. I've had like KPV type dogs, like Dutch dogs, Dutch Malinois, that are like, I can't get at the animal in here, so I'm going to come at you. Right. And I think I said that in the video that was pointed out. Like, yeah, I've had dogs that are like, I need to buy something, and that something is going to be you because I can't get to the cat. You keep stressing me out and I'm correcting you. So we have to be careful with that. For some high drive situations. But assuming that it's not the case, and then the dog's like, cool, I'm working counter conditioning, we go working on food, then I'll change roles and I'll say, okay, dog in the crate, cat's loose. Dog's in the crate with a knee collar. And I will work strategically to let the cat roam around, build some confidence, put the food somewhere where the cat has to cross the dog to go over it, that kind of stuff. And through the length of time, eventually the cat's going to get curious and the dog's going to get curious, and maybe the cat's going to go over there, and then the dog is going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to react to the cat that's walking by. Then I'll mark from a distance, good, and I'll go over there and throw some food into the crate and leave it at that. And I'll just continue that until I'll continue the cat and dog exercises, like pitching them in crates, up until they've learned to ignore each other. Okay, and so that's basically, cat goes in the crate, the dog can have more freedom, learns to walk by the crate, but like, I'm not going to go over there. And then cool, then it learns to just say everything's fine as long as you don't go over there and mess with the cat, right? Or you can go sniff the cat, you can check out the cat, but you can't try to bite the cat through the crate. Period. That's the only thing that's a no-no. And eventually the dog gives up, sleeps while the cat's out in the crate, and vice versa. And then once they've learned to deal with that process, meaning the dog can walk by the cat while they are out of the crate, meaning the dog's out of the crate, the dog can walk past the cat which is in the crate. That's a good progress. Now we have the dog in the crate. The cat feels comfortable to walk by the crate or check things out, and and the dog doesn't care. Then we're ready for more strategic training, which is cool. We're gonna lock the cat here in the room with us and the dog. The dog's got a muzzle on, and the cat's got a cat tree that it can climb up on, stay away, so it feels a little safe. And then we're gonna allow our interactions. The dog's in a longer line and a knee collar, so we can have some control. And then we follow that progress up until where they choose to be neutral. And once they're neutral, then we can work on them being friendly, or they may even find that friendliness themselves, right? One of my leading trainers now, Juliana, she's amazing. Like being her and Mariah have just been like, they were apprentices here many years ago. And now they're just kind of like the front runners of the entire company, And so I met Juliana because right before COVID, she had just been taking in this cat or this dog, and her mom had like 4
Oh,
cats, and she got this pit bull from Animal
oh,
Care Control.
Jesus.
And so we did an entire thing where you get like 4 cats and a pit bull. It's almost like a bad
Yeah.
joke, right? It's like, but it honestly, that process does work, and you can make a lot of progress with a lot of dogs. A lot of dogs and a lot of small animals. The only time it doesn't work is when the dog's got extreme prey, and you're going to have to fight that battle over and
Yeah.
over again, which is not fair to the dog. I've had the privilege of working with owners that are willing to say work with us for like 9 months to a year in training their dog, their or their high prey drive aggressive dog, around small animals and other dogs for that long of time, which is nice because you get really to see the progress. And so dogs that are almost obsessive about prey, and you can get them to be almost like you ever seen piranhas whenever
Mhm.
they're not
Oh
hungry
yeah, like
and they're
they're
just
just
kind of like they'll,
they're
they'll
just
just
chill.
they're just
They're just
chilling.
chill. They don't look like anything, but the minute you splash the water or you drop something, they are just on it.
Right. And that's how it feels like with those dogs. It's like, hey, they're good and everything's great. But as soon as something comes into the picture that is going to add agitation, stress, frustration, they're going to try to go after the small animal or the dog. Right. So I've seen that play out over and over again. The only 3 times that I can count has been what do they call the old school German Shepherds? DDR dogs or something like that. Like, I don't know. I think it was something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
They're like,
like Highland. No, not Highland Shepherd. It was. I kind of know what you're talking about. It was. I haven't heard it for so
it
long.
was a, it was a really strong IGP dog that, I mean, it saw hair. And this is I'll leave it with this indication for me of how prey driven or aggressive a dog could be to another dog is where I've seen like a little hairball, like a little dust bunny of hair on the floor, and walking that other dog past it and watching them try to snatch the hairball.
Oh my god.
Like as they're walking by, that's where I'm like, all right. So like that's very telling about how this dog is gonna feel about other
Yeah.
dogs. And last October there was a dog here that was like that. I'm still working with the dog. I mean, it's been months. It's been 6, 7 months of working with that pity. It's a pit bull, high drive. We were playing around with some new strategies with it, including medication. And after talking to Dr.
Mhm.
Uday, I don't. I was talking to Dr. Uday, Dr.
Oh yeah,
Melanie
yeah,
Uday. She's
yeah.
out
She
in
moved to Santa Rosa too.
Yeah, she's in Santa Rosa too now. And so I was talking to her, and so I was just running some ideas that I had. And so, we're trying them with her and see if we can see different improvement. But she was one of those dogs that like walked by a little tuft of hair next to her suite when we were walking here in the facility, and she just like tried to snatch it. And I was like, okay. I mean, it's kind of comical. You look at it, and you're like, well, the writing's on the wall about how you're going to feel. Typically, dogs like that, you treat them with pacifiers. I give them a ball to hold on to, and hey, anytime you see a dog and you instead of biting me or biting the leash, just crunch their ball, right? And start with that. So, well, that's been successful before, so I'm interested to see how it's going to play out with her. But yeah, man, like that's how it goes with these type of dogs, and I feel like we kind of get a very unique view of prey and prey aggression because of protection sport and the rescue world, right? Like the rescue work and the pit bull work and the sport, kind of bringing it all together. It just paints a certain
Yeah.
picture.
No, I
Um,
love it. Like before, like I didn't. This is like when I was starting dog training. Like I didn't really understand like why bite sports did stuff, and like, but then
mhm.
as I started learning more sports dogs or like just learning from sport dog trainers, you can learn so much from just that can help with pet dogs, like in different ways in one, and especially where, like, if I need help, if I'm not sure of something, I have so many friends from the IACP, including you, and so many people I can like pick their brains about that. I'm like, hey, I got this dog. I need your thoughts. Or like, what are some things that you've done that been successful? Because I want to make sure like when I work with my clients, we're successful. Like if I don't, I told them if I don't know what to do, or if you ask me a question that I don't know, I have a bunch of friends that I could talk to. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that's the benefit for us working within the team. We have a team of, I don't know, like just trainers in the training department that handle the board and train office. There's about 8 of us. There's 8 of us, including myself. So we basically run the National Geographic version of dog training here, right? Dogs coming in and out, working with owners, drama cases here and there. It's just, there's a certain personality that's definitely attracted to that kind of
yeah,
things, right? And when I look at everybody on the team, I'm like, oh, you guys love this shit. Like you guys like love it. You love whether you say you like drama or not, the only way you can do this is if you did. If you enjoyed the drama that the owner's dog jumped the fence and attacked the neighbor's dog, if you like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't, if you don't like it, it burns out. And that's happened with a lot of other trainers that I've interacted with over the years. It's just like the constant negative stories are just bad, right? And they are sad, and you have to be compassionate, but at some point you're just impressed of how bad some things can be just out of lack of good handling or exposure. And then here in the puppy development program, that's a whole different group of personalities. I mean, we have how many people working, how many puppy trainers? There is 6 puppy trainers here at the facility that just run what we call the Pup Start program, the Pup Start Chicago puppy raising program. And they are all about meticulous dog training experience, because you get an 8-week-old puppy. So if the 8-week-old puppy doesn't look great by the time it's like 6 months, it's kind of like the trainer's fault. You know what I'm saying? Versus and they have 6 months. Sometimes they have 2 years with a dog. I mean, it's crazy, but we'll have dogs here in the program for 2 years of age, and everyone's really happy, and it goes great. And then there's, and in the training office, we have maximum maybe 6 weeks, like maximum 6 weeks. At the very extreme of cases, we have 6 weeks. So it's definitely crunch time on the go of stuff that we got to do, but yeah, man, why don't we wrap up here? I feel like we've had a lot of like really cool conversations.
We had some fun stories, and it was really great just talking to you about just like what else I can be doing with this future shepherd, that I'm going to work with in a few days. So like,
and I was going to say, I would take a longer view on those cases, because I've given instructions to people and this is kind of what's really helped me in understanding the long-term success of clients, where it's like, technically speaking, if we follow these instructions and we are like going down the line of exposure training and spending X amount of days doing this and X amount of days doing that, we should have this outcome. But if we don't have that outcome and we have this outcome, we're going backwards. So we have to, if you can lay out those metrics for people and things to look out for. I've had clients do miracle things with their dogs. I'm just like, I'm impressed. I'm impressed because they have the ability to follow instructions to the degree that I can. Like if you gave me those instructions, I'm like, nah, man, we got to rehome this dog. Like if you gave me those instructions about my dog, I'm like, there's no way. But people take the dogs and they really take the times for it. And you're like, wow, okay, cool. So like everything's in order. Things are great. And so I would take a longer term view on some of those cases, because we can take a process and kind of shorten it and not get the real benefit of each stage of the process. That if you take something and say, hey, this is a 3-month process for introducing your dog to a cat, you may have more successful results than if you said, hey, these are the 3 steps that we're going to do in 3 days to get your dog over it, right? Just like people, dogs have the ability to learn through repetition and consistency. And if there's no consistency or enough repetitions, then you're not going to get the results, right? And that happens quite often. It's happened to me where I look back at some of my cases, or I look back at some of my sport training, and I'm like, man, I should really just spend the time. Like if you look at any of Lobo's PSA routines, if you look at Lobo's PSA routines, his downs are kind of slow. And I remember how I taught the downs, and I remember being like, nah, I'm not going to spend the time on it. It's gonna be fine. And then 2.5 years later, I'm looking at him and I'm like, fuck, you can't fix that. The dog feels about downs this way. His body, his muscles, actually, that's not true. You can't fix that. It's going to take someone that's not me to fix that, right? It's going to take someone like Brittany, who's going to be like, I'm going to focus. I'm not gonna do it. Someone like Brittany, someone like Joe Sanante, someone like, of that caliber will take that dog and say, hey, we're going to do downs progressively faster over the next 6 to 9 months. And I'm like, it's too much for me. Give me a faster dog. And not to sound jarring after your experience, is that I'm sure, like many other trainers, that have been in the industry quite a bit of time, including yourself, I've gone through my pet dog phase. I've had my pets, and I have my pets. Mona, Jolie passed away. We have Frito and Mona are kind of our pets. And then you have your dogs that you got for sport and dogs that you got for work. And that's what they are, right? They are dogs for sport and dogs for work. And Lobo was a dog for sport. Um, and when I realized I need to take a little break from the sport, then Lobo, you need to go to somewhere that someone's going to consider you your a pet, and someone give you another. So I have a someone here with 150 acres that's going to take him, and he's just got a great experience, and he loves them, and within the year I'll probably start another dog for the next things. But that's what it is to me at this point in my career. This dog is here for sport, and that is what he's here to
Hmm.
do. And so if it's not sport that he is doing, that he is not fitting his you know his thing for me, and I'm not going to warehouse him until I have time or get back into it. No, he's going to be like, cool, this is as far as you and I go into sport, and you're going to move on to your pet dog home, and I'm going to move on to some other things. And when I get back to it, I'm going to get another dog that is for sport. That, but my next dog, I'm really looking to keep, because I want to close out a 3 with a dog that I have. But yeah, man. So, any final remarks, Kevin?
No, I mean, you are that, I mean, what you talked about, all those tips, I think was great. And like, if I run into anything or if I have any issues, like, I think I'll probably
Yeah,
just
dude.
take some video and then maybe just like hit you up, be like, hey, Fabian, what do you feel? What are your thoughts with the way this went and things like that? But
Oh, dude, for sure. I mean, I think we could even analyze and do another podcast episode on it.
oh, oh yeah, that'd be hella cool.
Yeah, I love doing that kind of stuff. I love sharing my experience, but I think it's not even a sharing the experience. I just feel like that's really where you mine a lot of the gold that is necessary or that people want in this
Hmm.
industry, right? It's like, as much as like I've gone to the schools. I remember, but I won't say anymore because we'll just sit there all night. But there was a time where I was going to conferences, do workshops, everything. And at some point I was like, man, I just gotta sit down and do it. I just have to do it. And that's what I tell people. It's like, hey, you're just gonna do it. In fact, all of our trainers, anyone in the apprentice role, you're just gonna do it a million times. And I'm gonna guide you through it. And the senior trainers are gonna guide you through it, but you're gonna do it a million times because it's gonna take that in order to make you a better trainer, right? And in order to develop the skills. And that's kind of where I'm after right now is how do I teach people lessons about dog training without putting them through all of the really like fucked up scenarios or situations that I put myself in because I was a young trainer, didn't know what I was
Oh
doing,
yeah, no, you and me
Um,
both, man. It's just like I did stupid shit like years ago that I'm like, no, I would not do that. I would not do that shit now. Like even if you paid me like 5 grand.
dude, I'm glad social media wasn't
Yeah.
around back then. I think about that. I was looking at like some of the stuff. I'm like, I don't think content creation was even a term back in 2012, 2013 or something like that. But, but yeah, I mean, I've learned my lessons, and, I'm happy to pass them on. So I appreciate you getting on the podcast and talking about some of this stuff. But, keep me posted, and let's see if we can do another episode and as an update to how this case is
Yeah, no,
going.
for sure, man. I really appreciate the opportunity too. It was really good talking to with you, man.
All right, sounds good, man. All right, guys, and thanks for everyone listening. We'll see you guys later in future
All
episodes.
right, peace out, guys.